What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best fireball sorceress build in Path of Exile 2. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of this setup, then I will explain what skill gems and upgrades should you focus on. Then as well we'll see what is the best gear and how to get it for both the mid game and end game. And then finally we will go over the passive tree, attributes, your skill rotations, and even what Atlas passive should you use, so we would be able to get the highest damage possible and much more. If you are looking for this build on the website, then click my link in this video description or the pinned comment. This setup's main playstyle is built around putting up a frost wall and then blasting the enemies with infinite amount of fireballs. Cold exposure in the combination with the fire skills is very incredibly OP in the endgame, so this build works amazing on big groups of enemies where we simply use 2 skill combo and cover our entire screen with the projectiles that explode and do massive amounts of damage. On top of this, we are going to be using nodes like the scoring winds, constant gale, and many more to increase our cast speed and mana, so we could basically spam our frost walls and speed farm through every single content in the game. And then on top of this, for our defense we are going to be focusing on the energy shield and its recharge rate, so we could easily get over 15,000 shields and much more. So let me show you the build, and for the main class I have chosen to go with the Sorceress, and our Ascendancy is the Storm Weaver. Then for the first skill we have the Fireball with the support gems called the Unleash, Scatter Shot, Vault Shards, Rising Tempest, and the Control Destruction. Then second we get the Flame Wall with the Fortress, Persistence, Arcane Tempo, and the Fire Mastery. Then next we get the Frost Wall with the Icicle, Spell Cascade, and Glaciation. Then next we have the Frost Bomb with the Strip Away and Magnified effect. Next up we have the Cast on Freeze with the Comet and Impetus. Next we go the Grim Feast with the Clarity. And finally for the last one we are using the Hypothermia with the Persistence and Heightened Curse. Most of the setup is structured around using the Frost Wall and the Fireballs to delete enemies in seconds, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next we also have a leveling build, in case if you are starting your journey from level 0, and you want to use it up until about level 25, where you should start getting our most important skills. So first off we have the Spark with the Unleash and the Control Destruction. Then next we have the Flame Wall with the Fortress. And finally we're using the Frost Bomb with the Magnified effect and Concentrated effect. This is your basic setup up until you get our build's 2 most important skills. And in the early stages of progression we are using the Spark and the Flame Wall as our main ability combo, as they are incredibly powerful, especially at the beginning. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this energy shield node, and then take all of these 3, so pure energy, rapid recharge, and the dampening shield. Next up let's go to the right and get this whole circle. Then now we want to go to the left side and get both of these as well, so the Essence Infusion and the Exploit the Elements. Then from here let's keep continuing our way up top, and on our way we want to get the Overexposure and the Climate Change. And then from here we go to the right and first get the Physics Fragmentation, and then also the Thin Ice. And then from here we want to go back all the way from where we began, and just unlock these defensive nodes in whatever order you prefer. Overall, there are 2 ways to approach spending points in the passive tree, so either way maximizing every single level and then continuously refunding your points, or perhaps just be a little bit less efficient, but focus on already the mid to end game build, which is exactly what we did. But in what way you do it is of course up to you, as long as you use the same exact path at your final version. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply want to fulfill your attribute requirements for gear and skill gems, and then after that spend the rest of your leftover attributes into more intelligence. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Scoring Winds, as it doubles the effectiveness of our exposure applied by the Frost Bomb, which then scales even further with the passive tree and the Strip Away support gem. Then second we get the Constant Gale for the 10% more cast speed and 20% more mana regen rate. This build will often struggle with the mana, so any additional mana regeneration is always useful. Then next we get the Strike Twice, which now lets you apply 2 shock stacks to your enemies, and in combination with our 4th option, the Shaper of the Storms, your cold damage can now also apply shock. This unlocks a new way of scaling your damage by shocking and freezing the enemies at the same time, which makes this build very powerful in the late game. In PoE 2, earning skill points take a lot of hard work, so it will be very smart not to spend your points recklessly. Of course, you can refund your passive points later, but only at a cost, so following a specific setup is extremely useful. If you are following this build, then make sure not to deviate from it, as some of the decisions that I made might not make sense at first, but is going to pay off later. So feel free to use the exact same path as I have right here. And don't forget to check this video's description to find the link for this website, and this should make it easier for you to follow the tree. Next up we have our Atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or in rituals. So when we start, we wanna first of all go to the right side, and then get all of these nodes, and then keep going down until you get this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. Then from here we circle back a little, and this time keep going up until we get a second keystone called the Unstable Energies. And then from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you want. But then on top of this, we have even more passives, which in order you want to unlock them doesn't really matter, so again it's up to you. And this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have Delirium. Then third we have the bosses. And then on top we have the pinnacle bosses. Then next we also have our expedition setup, and then finally our bridge setup. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Chimming Staff with the Schedule of Power, and for more we want increased cold damage, then also increased spell damage and plus levels of all spell skills. Then for the helmet we have the Expert Vicar Tiara with the Energy Shield, and for bonus stats we need max Energy Shield, max mana, lightning resistance and fire resistance. Then for the chest we have the Expert Altar Robe with the Energy Shield, and for more we got the fastest start of the Energy Shield recharge. Then also the max energy shield, more to spirit and fire and chaos resistance. Then for the belt we have the linen belt with the increased mana flask recovery. And for more we want to go with the max mana and life, and cold and fire resistance. Then for gloves we got the blue flame bracers with the armor and energy shield. And with them we also got the intelligence, fire and cold resistance. And 100% of our damage is now converted to cold. As I said previously, this is not required, as our build only uses the best of both worlds, so both the cold and fire damage, and it doesn't really matter if we 100% go into one or another, as long as we use the best skills that are associated with the element. So with that said, if you can't afford it or don't want to get the best in slot item, then you can go with any other similar gloves with a similar stats. Then for boots we are using the Expert Wrap Sandals with the Energy Shield, and for bonus stats we get increased movement speed, max life, lightning and fire resistance. Then for our first ring we got the Ruby Ring with the fire resistance, and for more we got max life, cold and lightning resistance. While then on the second one we have the Sapphire Ring with the cold resistance, and for more we got max life, max mana and lightning resistance. And then finally for the amulet we got the Stellar Amulet with more to all attributes, and for more we need more to spirit, lightning and chaos resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is a starter setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. Then next we have runes. During early item progression, most gear is socketed with resistant runes. However, once your elemental resistances have been capped and the runes are no longer necessary, then you want to opt in to increase your maximum life with the body runes, or consider socketing a soul core. So right now on our head, chest and weapon / offhand, we want to go with the iron rune, while then on our boots and gloves we go with the soul core of the lady. And as far as getting this gear goes, by far the best way to get better gear in the campaign is to check the vendor in the town each time you level up, as vendors can change their offerings based on your level, so this is the best way to find upgrades. And then after level 65, you just want to keep continuing repeating your maps until tier 16. And again, for more in-depth tutorial, check out my gearing guide video. Then on top of this, we need to quickly look into the charms. Charms are incredibly useful, as by having the right one equipped at the right time can save you from dying. If you are struggling with certain bosses, then look into what damage type they are using, and then use that specific charm to increase your resistance. For me personally, I like to use the Stone Charm for stuns, because if we stand still for too long then we die. Then second, we want the Amethyst Charm for chaos damage, as it's pretty hard to get it from other places. And finally, for the last one, we want to go with the Ruby Charm. But as I said, which one you choose will entirely depend on the enemies that you're fighting, so feel free to experiment and mix and match. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So our main rotation and the highest DPS combo is to first of all place down our Frost Bomb in the flame wall under the enemies. Then now use Hypothermia. Then afterwards use the Frost Wall on top of the targets. Then now shoot the fireballs towards the location where you place the Frost Wall, and then from here just maintain the Flame Wall and the exposure from the Frost Bomb. In a quick summary, what we basically want to do is place the Frost with the Flame Wall to burn the enemy and buff our attacks, so then we use the Hypothermia for more buffs, and then from here we just stun and immobilize the enemies with the Frost Wall, while at the same time spamming the fireballs until the enemy is dead. But to be honest, like you can see from the gameplay, on pretty weak enemies all you need to do is just spam the fireball in the combination of any other spell, and because of our setup they will not stand a single chance against us. So let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my top 3 best builds video, where I showed even more powerful builds, so click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.